Hi, welcome to another IELTS essay writing video. In this video, we are going to look at the results of last week's IELTS essay contest, which was held at IELTSnetwork.com. There were 50 submissions. We will go through each of the submissions, but before we get to the submissions, I'll provide you with a list, a numbered list, and you can find yourself in the list and fast forward through the video if you want to skip to your feedback in particular. Before we get rolling here, I just wanted to make a disclaimer. I am not an IELTS examiner. I have never been an IELTS examiner. I base these assessments on my experience as an IELTS instructor and on my experience working very closely with IELTS examiners. These assessments were carried out using the Task 2 Writing Band Descriptors chart, the public version, which is available directly from IELTS.org. I will provide a link to it from my blog. Before we get to the submissions themselves, let's have a little read of the essay question. In some cultures, children are expected to follow very strict rules of behavior. In other cultures, children are allowed to do almost anything they want. What are the merits of each opinion? What is your position on the matter? Include relevant examples in your response. Okay, very straightforward question. The double question portion of it might have, well, I know it did throw a few people. So I want to just talk very briefly about some very common mistakes that I saw in several of the essays that were submitted. The first thing is that some students didn't fully understand the question. The question specifically asks for merits. So some students responded with essays that talked about the drawbacks of each position. They didn't look at the merits, so of course you would lose marks for task achievement. Other students were not clear at the end of the essay what their position was. So again, that you would lose marks there for task achievement. I found that several of the essays didn't provide an outline in the introduction paragraph. So please remember that to score well in the cohesion section of your mark, you want to provide a bit of an outline for how you're going to address the question. So there should be a sentence there in the introduction outlining a bit of a map for the rest of the essay. Many students were not very succinct in their topic sentences in these supporting paragraphs. The supporting paragraphs should have only one topic sentence. On occasion, I think 2 topic sentences can work, but you should be demonstrating for the examiner that you can be succinct, that you can write in a concise way, and several students didn't do that. They were offering 2, 3, even 4. I think one student was writing 5 topic sentences and then proceeding to an example. So you don't want to be doing this. Many of these submissions used examples that were too general. So if you're just talking about general people as your example, this is not specific enough. What you want to do is share examples that are true to life and that are real life instances of the point that you're trying to make. And when you do this, this adds a lot of weight to the claim that you're making, and overall it makes your essay and your position much stronger. And this sort of writing in this way will help encourage the examiner to warm to your position, and this is obviously a good thing that will garner you marks on the exam. The conclusions that were drawn in many of the supporting paragraphs did not really link to the central theme of the essay. Now, if you remember, your supporting paragraphs should be acting as these cohesive tools that help tie the entire theme of the essay together. So some students were finishing their supporting paragraphs with examples, which is not what you want to do. This is not the place where you're sharing new ideas. This is the place where you're saying, after what's been looked at in this supporting paragraph, it can be concluded that, and then XYZ, whatever. So a good concluding sentence would be something like, thus the benefits of imposing strict rules upon children can be seen, for looking at that side of the argument. And then finally, I think all of the essays had some challenges with grammar, with regards to grammar. Poor grammar, as you know, leads to incoherence, and incoherence leads to poor task achievement. So it's sort of a cascading effect. So I think that everyone that submitted an essay, even the people that were on the strong end of the scale, you might want to consider having your essay looked at by someone in a university at your area, or maybe a native English-speaking friend. Just find out what the grammar issues are and try to rectify them that way. Okay, now without further ado, let's get to the results of the essay writing contest. This is a list of the submissions. I've grouped them by quality, and although the first three, 1, 2, 3, I've ordered those, I do believe that S_Q_2000, that essay is better than number 2, which is better than number 3. But these other sections, these large groupings, are roughly the same in quality. So you see below band 6, the first grouping of essays 4 to 10. So these would be high band 6 essays, and with a little tweaking could just improve themselves just that much more, and would be able to launch themselves into band 7. These essays below, from 11 to 23, these would be about band 6. So they require a bit more study, a bit more work to be able to get themselves up to the next band. I've done the same sort of grouping below band 5 and band 4. So below band 5, you see 3 that I felt that with just a bit of tweaking, you could get yourself up to band 6. But these down here, these users might need to spend a bit more time going through their essay, tweaking certain areas to be able to proceed into the next band. And band 4, so we have several students that are challenged in some ways that will require a bit of help. And then down here, we have a few essays that are perhaps pushing towards the band 3 level. Okay. So please note the number if you'd like to fast forward through the video and get to my specific feedback for you. Thank you everyone for submitting an essay, and I hope you find the following video helpful. So the strongest essay submitted, in my opinion, is this one, written by S_Q_2000. And I'm just looking at my notes for this essay. So this user wrote a very good sort of map for the essay in the introduction. There were slight awkward areas that I think held this student back from band 8, and those areas revolved around plurals. So there were enough grammar errors here that this student was held back from band 8. As you know, the band 8 level is almost completely flawless, and we don't see that here. So this student would place at the band 7 level. But a very strong introduction, good reflection upon the central theme in the supporting paragraphs. I've written here, the examples are quite strong, and it's really just down to minor technical issues and mainly grammar issues. So S_Q_2000, you may want to go and have somebody tell you exactly where the grammar issues are, and then you can work towards getting this essay mark up further. So good job and congratulations. Another band 7 essay scoring lower band 7 level was written by Medianocci. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This essay is very simple. It's very clear. The argument is crystal clear, which is something that you absolutely have to score well on the exam. So the link between the essay question and this essay is crystal clear. There is no incoherence in the essay, not even a little bit, despite the fact that there are grammatical challenges at certain points. The grammar needs to be cleaned up a little bit. There are areas where prepositions are used in awkward ways. And this also leads to other slightly awkward vocabulary uses and choices. For example, words like ultimate choice, it's a bit too strong. And then words like ruined, I've made a note here, ruined. Anyway, these sorts of words, I felt that they weren't really in keeping with the tone of the essay, and I think they were a little bit too strong. But I think otherwise, this essay is very good, strong, well organized, and provides many examples of cohesion at the essay level. So you see it connecting between paragraphs. You see the sentences working together. So media noce, the only thing I would ask you to do is to get somebody in your area to just have a look at the grammar, get that cleaned up, really commit that to memory, and I'm sure you're going to see some major improvements in your mark. Okay, the next Band 7 essay was written by Yue, and I've written that Yue, this might be a bit of a shaky Band 7. It could very easily be marked a 6.5, but I think that you have a good argument. You derive good conclusions in your supporting paragraphs, and you make use of good vocabulary. I think you vary the vocab quite well, so I think that comes across nicely. The grammar is awkward at times. Again, I think like the other two people at Band 7 level, you will need to get somebody to have a look at that so that you can get it cleaned up a little bit. That leads to a few awkward sentences, but overall you can be understood. I've noted here that most of the sentences contain a grammar error, and I think this is the reason why this essay could very easily fall into a Band 6.5. So I think that that's the main thing for you, is you're going to have to, you obviously understand the structure, you know how to put together a reasoned argument, you know how to conclude things. So I think that that's not really the issue. The issue here is just kind of cleaning up your ability to communicate a message in flawless grammar. Okay, but very good performance. Thank you for entering, and well done. Now we get to the Band 6s. These first few are at a high Band 6 level, and with just a little tweaking, they'll fall right into the Band 7 level. This is Olga's essay. Olga, I've noted here that your example in the supporting paragraph is shared a little bit late. And that can be fine if it's concluded properly, but I think that what you want to do is you want to have a topic sentence, that states what you're going to be talking about in this supporting paragraph, and then right away you want to share your example and then discuss the example and conclude from the example. Now, one thing I hope that you can correct in the future is don't start using in other words, after your topic sentence, because it makes it sound like you didn't really know what you were saying in the first sentence. So here you have some educational experts, and then the rest of the sentence. In other words, they are exploring the world without any rules. Just state it clearly the first time, and then share your example. Don't start rephrasing yourself and making it look like you don't really know what you're talking about. Okay, I've noted that the examples are a little bit on the general side, so you might want to look at trying to be a bit more specific. Now, the Japanese educational system, okay, that's nice and specific. Let's see, why did I note that you were being general? Okay. In certain ways, consider the norm, it applies to follow. Yeah, so here we have, having said this, however, it is not accepted by many other societies. Those societies demand from children aged as young as a toddler. So firstly, you're nice and specific when you talk about Japanese, but then when you go to the other example, the example is what, non-Japanese? That's huge. I think that's a little bit too broad. You want to be specific, and you want to ensure that everybody can clearly see what part of the world or what person or what group you're connecting your example to. I think your grammar is fairly strong, but there are a few significant weaknesses in areas, and the majority of the sentences have some sort of grammatical issue in them, so I think this is going to hold you back from hitting Band 7. and there are a few instances of awkward vocab usage. But thank you for submitting this essay, and good luck with your studies. Another strong Band 6 was Abby. Abby, there are a few run-on sentences in your essay, and for other students listening, run-on sentences will not help you. I know some students get into this mindset where they think if they write longer sentences, they will look more academic. That's not the case at all. What ends up happening is you make grammatical mistakes, and sometimes your grammatical mistakes will be so serious that they will cause you to write in a kind of incoherent way. And as soon as your examiner sees that, or as soon as your examiner feels that they aren't understanding what you're writing, your mark is just going to plummet. So Abby, my advice to you is just simplify those sentences. Make them nice and short and concise. Make your point, go on to the next idea. Make sure that they link together. I'm not saying, have a bunch of random little ideas. You can have short sentences, link them all together, and you will see your mark improve. I see there are conclusions drawn in the supporting paragraphs, and I've commented that these are good and they help to create some cohesion between the paragraphs. There are minor grammar errors in most sentences, so you'll need to get a grammar cleanup done on your writing. And that's all I have to say about that. So, Abby, thank you for that submission. You're a strong Band 6, and with a bit of tweaking, you will get yourself to Band 7. Another strong Band 6 was written by Winfa. Winfa, I've noted here that you share good examples, but you need to tie these examples more tightly to the idea of education. So you might want to look into that a little bit. Your second example is not as specific as your first example, so you might want to look into choosing something that's a little bit more like the first example. You're talking about the tsunami disaster in Japan. That's a very specific point. So you might want to think about doing something similar in the second paragraph. I've written here that grammar is pretty good, but there are several areas. There are several errors that you'll need to look at. The other thing that's missing is I don't see clear conclusions drawn in the supporting paragraphs, and this is of course going to cause you to lose marks in terms of your cohesion, the cohesion portion of your mark. So be sure to provide some conclusions here that link back to the central theme of the essay. But thank you for that submission and good work. Okay, the next strong Band 6 was submitted by Denise. I've noted, Denise, that you would be a Band 7, but there just is too much grammatical awkwardness in the essay. And what else have I written here? There are several word type issues. So areas where you're using a noun when you should be using an adjective or a verb. So you might want to go back and look through the essay again. I found areas that are long run-on sentences. So I think I can highlight one for you here. Let's see, is that one sentence? Yes, it is. So as you can see, the sentences are, some of them anyway, are a little bit on the long side. And when you write these long sentences, they are of course going to be grammatically incorrect. It's very, very difficult to write a sentence, even for a native speaker, at this length that's going to have 100% grammatical accuracy. So as I was saying for our friend Abby, you might want to think about shortening your sentences, make them nice and concise, and link them using cohesive devices. And let me see, what else have I commented on here? I've underlined several areas of the essay, so I was just pointing out areas with grammatical inaccuracy. So short sentences, get your essay cleaned up grammatically, and you will see your writing improve. Thank you for that submission. The next essay was sent by IELTS SP, and again, IELTS SP, I've noted here that you are held back by poor grammar. There are grammatical issues in every sentence in this essay, unfortunately. You need to be specific in your examples as well. So I would think that you're scoring Band 6 now, but you have to be careful, because if things get too much more out of hand, then you're going to fall into the Band 5.5 level. the examples, I think, let me just highlight it here. Okay, so take Steve Jobs, for example. The co-founder of the world's greatest computer company was a college dropout. If Steve Jobs had been brought up in a strict culture, then he would never have had been allowed to leave college to start a company. This clearly shows that rearing a child without rules results in individuals willing to try out different and creative career paths than a child brought up with rules. So of course, this is full of grammatical errors, but I think that your logic, your reasoning, the example, the way that this is a true-to-life example, all of this really strengthens the non-grammar related portions of the mark. So I think that that you would score good points for task achievement in this one area, and this is what's kind of helping you sort of float at the band 6 level. Clean your grammar up, shorten your sentences, and you will see writing improvement. Thank you for that submission. Now I have another user named IELTS K. I'm not sure if IELTS P and IELTS K are the same person, but this is IELTS K's submission. And I also note to myself here that it is a fairly strong essay. There are certain things going on here that are very good. I am sometimes disappointed when I see students do something like this. So as you know, this is the supporting paragraph, and I don't understand why you would share an example in the first sentence of the supporting paragraph. However, I went with it. There is some logical progression to the whole thing, but I think if you were to add, topic sentences, this would really help to create some cohesion between the whole essay. The grammar is fair, and I think you do share some good evidence, so the examples are fairly good, but there needs to be more reflection as well on the central theme of the essay in your concluding area of your supporting paragraphs. So for example, in this paragraph and in the second supporting paragraph, there really is no conclusion. I mean, if we look at this last sentence, they might grow up to, this probably says not being able to follow social rule. But I mean, what's the connection to the essay question? Why aren't you reflecting upon what the essay question asks? And you're supposed to be showing merits, by the way. So I think there are a couple of things that need to be improved here. But overall, I think you do some things quite well, as I pointed out, and I think that that's why you're sort of floating at the band 6 level. However, I do believe that these two essays, if they're both you, were kind of lucky this time around. I could see them very easily if the grammar were to get worse or if the reasoning were to not be as solid, fall into the band 5.5, band 5 level. So be careful there. Go back, improve your grammar. Please watch my videos on essay outline again, and on essay structure. Okay, we have another band 6 submission, and this is this was written by Say Yes Patel. Let's get up to the top here. Say Yes is at the band 6 level. I wrote that Say Yes, you would be able to quickly get yourself to the band 7 level if you could clean up your grammar a little bit. There are a few very awkward sentences in this essay, so you might want to go and have that looked at. You draw conclusions in your supporting paragraphs, which I think is great, and I think that by simply cleaning up your grammar, you're going to launch yourself into an entirely different band. So let's point out the conclusions that you draw here. Thus, it is easy to see why this argument has garnered support from many countries around the world, which I think is a fitting conclusion. Thus, giving freedom in behavior bring many benefits in many ways. Of course, this is grammatically inaccurate, but I can see that you're trying to link everything back to the central theme, and I think this is excellent. Let me see. I think those are the only major things that I've commented on here. Overall, the structure is good, and you are, all things considered, resting at a band 6 level. Thank you for that submission, Say Yes Patel. Another band 6 is Paifong's essay. I have commented again, Paifong, that a lot of people are sharing examples about Japan. But anyway, your conclusion area is pretty bare. So, I mean, here I see you're sharing an example. and then you don't really tie this example to the central theme of the essay. So that's a major error. You're going to lose marks for cohesion there. You seem to exhibit problems with plurals, to speak specifically about grammar, so you might want to go back and review that. I've noted here that there's a fairly good progression, despite this, there are a few lacking structural issues. But I think that you progress fairly well through the argument. You do make some claims, and you do make an attempt to prove those claims with examples, which I think is good. And I think that this helps kind of bump your mark up to a band 6. But for you to get to the next level, like the other people that have submitted essays, you're going to have to follow a more clear structure and get your essay cleaned up grammatically so that you know exactly where you're going wrong. Thank you for that submission. Okay, the next essay I received is a straight band 6. So if you're looking for a textbook example of a band 6 essay, have a look at this. This was written by Kay Shazad. Kay Shazad, you've written what I call a pretzel essay because you use the and symbol at several points, which is a pet peeve of mine. I do not like pretzel essays. When you use symbols like this, it makes your writing look kind of lazy. So, and it's not just this. Other students, they wrote things like etc for etc or IE. So this is not something, you're not noting things in a notebook here. This is your IELTS exam. You have to be as formal as you can, and you're supposed to try to be coming across as an academic. So you don't want to look too lazy. I've noted here that there are issues with commas, Shazad, so you might want to go back, just have a look at the comma usage and get that fixed up. Oh, I see etc here, Shazad. You shouldn't be writing like this in your essay. There are lots of areas of awkwardness. There are grammatical problems. The example is not succinct. So let me just read the example out here. For instance, how the child is behaving in his school, what sort of friends does he have, and how much time does he spend with them, where he goes after school time, etc. You're not being specific here. I need to see you. I think this etc doesn't help either, because it makes me think that you haven't told me the entire example. Is there more that you want to say? So please try to be as specific as you can. Let me see here. Yeah, and just that, and then lots of awkwardness, grammatical problems. So be careful there, Shazad. I think that this essay would easily fall into band 5.5 if things were to get any weaker. So I encourage you to go and get your essay grammatically cleaned up by somebody and note exactly the grammar issues. But thank you for that submission. Okay, Eduardo. Eduardo, I'm sorry, I think some of your essay got deleted when I copied it over, but I have the entire essay right here in front of me on a piece of paper. I don't think your vocabulary qualifies ideas properly. And actually, luckily, on the screen here, I can give you an example. You use the word terrified. So some cultures believe children need to be terrified by very strict rules and violent punishments. I know what you mean. I think you mean that, that maybe children need to feel the seriousness of the rules. But when you use words like terrified, this is not really the sort of vocabulary you want to be using. So I think you would place quite low for vocabulary usage. You, again, in the supporting paragraphs, you have several topic sentences. You seem to share some sort of thesis here. In my opinion, there is no need to involve any extremely strict or even violent method when raising a child. So that's your position. I understand that. But then in your concluding paragraph, you state that I'm reading it from the paper, there should be strict, or sorry, they, and you're referring to parents, should be strict when required and more flexible on other occasions. So I think this kind of goes against the opinion that you share here, and that's major because half of the essay question was asking you for your position on it. Now you've taken two completely opposite positions in the same essay, so I think the examiner would look at this and think that there's no real cohesion, there's no real
there's no real balance between the start of the essay and the end of the essay, and I think you would lose major task achievement marks there. Your supporting paragraphs don't come to any sort of conclusion at all. And oh, I just noted as well that the very first word in the essay is grammatically incorrect. So I think, there are lots of things that need to be improved here. I think that overall your essay is a bit better than the ones we've just looked at. And you're going to have to do quite a few things to get yourself up. So maybe you could start by getting a grammar cleanup done on your work, and in doing so you'll see specifically where the issues are and how you can improve. But thank you for submitting that.
The next essay was submitted by Ginu, and Ginu and I have been working together online. Ginu, I think you share a good plan for the essay at the beginning. There are many grammatical errors throughout the essay, and this obviously weighs heavily on your mark and your ability to communicate a message. I've noted, however, that there is no incoherence. So I believe that this is what's saving you from falling into the band 5, 5.5 level. You have a central theme, which is very good. So what's holding you back from band 7 is simply the grammar. As you know, band 7 essays typically, not all of them, but typically have grammatical issues in sentences less than 50% of the time. So what that means is 50% or more of the sentences you see at the band 7 level are grammatically accurate. And I don't see that here. So this is what's holding you back from band 7. But I think other than this, you have a fairly good structure. Your examples are pretty good. They're specific. So I think all you need to do is go get that grammar cleaned up, and you will see yourself skyrocket to another band. The next essay was written by, let's see, Graziana, 90. Okay. Graziana, there were a few areas that are confusing. Sometimes you use pronouns like this there. That makes people wonder what you're referring to. I wasn't sure if this is referring to parents or children. Let me see. There are other areas of awkwardness. You don't draw conclusions in your supporting paragraphs. You seem to jump from one side to the other as far as argument is concerned. Now let me give you an example regarding what I'm talking about. Okay, it starts here and it ends at something around here. So according to some parents, a strict behavior code inhibits children to fulfill their passions and develop their self-confidence. In contrast, children should be exposed to the reality around them, even if they might break some rules in order to further develop their cognitive skills, like abstraction, logic. So I'm not exactly sure why you're going against yourself here, because you start the paragraph talking about some cultures should grow without any restrictions, and then you go to a strict behavior code, and then you go back to children should be exposed to the reality around them, even if they break some rules. So it's hard, one paragraph should be about one of the sides, the second paragraph should be about the other side. And as we can see here, there are several areas of grammar problems. So you might want to go back and look at. Oh, I noted that your conclusion seems to successfully take the middle ground. I normally don't recommend that students take the middle ground when they're writing their essay, because it's just that much harder to compose grammatically accurate sentences this way. If you're looking to score well in the examination, your best bet is just to do the most straightforward thing you can. But you take the middle ground, and I think you do it quite well. In my opinion, one approach is not better than the other, but we must find a compromise between the two. Rules are paramount in children's growing process, so a bit of grammar there, as help them to become a more successful and respectful person. However, giving children the possibility to act as they decide would benefit them both psychologically and socially. So I think that you choose the middle ground, and specifically this first sentence, it's quite clear, and I think that that you do that quite well. But you are in jeopardy of falling into band 5 area if you don't get your grammar and structure cleaned up. Thank you for that submission. Another band 6 essay was sent by WTQ Saber. And I think this essay has a logical progression to it. you stick to the essay question, which I think is very good. There are some conclusions that I think are in keeping with the essay question, and that's good. Except that there are grammar issues in most sentences, and this leads to awkwardness at times. So, for example, phrases like "this will be of great benefits" is awkward to read and grammatically inaccurate. Let me see, I've highlighted a sentence here. It starts as long as. Okay, as long as they meet the standardized criteria, undoubtedly it is very unlikely for children to go wild without taking possible consequences into account. Now this is just awkward. It's hard for me to understand what you're trying to write here. So I think you'll want to go back and have somebody look at your writing. But thank you for that submission. Another Band 6 essay was shared by Meredith Johnson. Meredith, I think your examples are not quite specific enough. You'll have to, let me go to this one in particular. So for example, a stereotyped child cannot possibly get out of their thinking box. So first, I don't even really know what you're referring to there, but the stereotyped child, I would appreciate it if you would be a bit more specific and maybe spend a bit more time defining what you mean by that. There are several areas of awkwardness in this writing. Again, these are linked directly to poor grammar. I think that you're starting to teeter into incoherence in some areas, and I worry that this could possibly place you at the band 5.5 level. So, but there are areas where there seems to be, there are areas where the cohesion is quite good. You seem to be able to make links between sentences, between paragraphs to an extent, and you do draw conclusions, even though they're not really based on strong evidence, but you do draw conclusions from your supporting paragraphs. So there is an overall progression to the essay, which I think places you right at the lower band 6 level. So be careful in the future, try to get your grammar cleaned up, and I'm sure you'll see this essay improve. The next band 6 student was Gyla. Okay. Gyla, most of your sentences contain a grammar issue. I think you provide good evidence, and you're specific. So you talk about China and India, and these sorts of specific examples really add a tangible element to your writing. I think it makes it easier for the reader to agree with your position simply because you are making the entire argument or the entire discussion just that much more real. So you share good evidence, you have a central theme, there's a logical progression to the essay. I think these are the things that are holding you at the band 6 level. However, the grammar is really what's holding you back. So for you to be able to get to the next level, you're going to have to improve that. Thank you for that submission. Another band 6 was submitted by Ludovica. And Ludovica, you share a rhetorical question in your introduction, which is fine, although I do not, personally, this is just me, I do not find that rhetorical questions are really in keeping with the academic tone that you want to be delivering. This is not a discussion, it's not really a letter, and I would advise you just to avoid these altogether. Make your points and draw your conclusion. Your supporting paragraphs are both missing conclusion sentences, so you're going to have to go back and do that. And because they're missing these conclusion sentences, of course, it's difficult to see the link between the main theme of the essay and your supporting paragraphs. Also, I've noted here that you fail to show the merits of the two sides. You seem to show things that are useless, for example, when you're supposed to be showing, that both sides have positive elements or good things, and then at the end of that you kind of conclude one way or the other. But the essay question is very specific, so if you start going against what the essay question is saying, you're going to lose marks for task achievement. I've noted here that I believe that you are a Band 7 writer, only that you're held back by several things that you need to tweak. So your grammar is quite good, except that there are some awkward areas at times. Your grammar is probably better than some of the essays we've just looked at. But I think that you're just going to have to change a few things, create a bit more cohesion between the different paragraphs, and this will launch you into the Band 7 area and beyond. So thank you for that submission, and good luck with your studies. The next submission was given by a regular user of IELTSnetwork.com, Delvey Davis. Delvey, I've noted here that you are a Band 6 writer, although you're simply held back, like some of the other people we've been looking at, by grammar. So your grammar, there are issues in almost every sentence, unfortunately, and if that's the case, it's very hard for the examiner to kind of position you at a Band 7 level. There isn't any incoherence, which is good. You do have several unneeded articles. You might want to go back and have a look at that in the essay. Let me see what else is noted here. Yeah, this conclusion, it's not really in keeping with the essay question, so therefore some cultures follow this point of view. I mean, as you know, you're supposed to be kind of concluding that that the culture that you're looking at has some positive points, right? So the essay question asks you what are the merits of it, and so you go through, you list what the merits are, you discuss them, and then your conclusion is that indeed there are certain merits to this point of view, and then at the end of the essay you share your own personal position. So you might want to look at that. But aside from that, I mean, you have a structure. It leads to creativity and self-reliance. I mean, I think that your topic sentences are strong, they're to the point. So there are lots of really positive things going on here. It's just kind of tweaking these last few areas that's what needs to be done to get you to the next band level. Okay, and I'm not exactly sure. I mean, personally, I don't really like it when students use quotes. Try to put this into your own words if you can as well. I mean, we don't really know who said that. It is rightly said that give respect and take respect. Don't even really know what you're referring to there. So you might want to just be a bit more specific, a bit more original. You can share this yourself or make reference to this if you know who said this quote. And that might be a bit different, but typically just avoid quotes in your IELTS essay. You want to use your own words and show the examiner that you can use your own words to prove a point and to draw conclusions. So thank you very much for that submission, Delvey Davis, and I'm sure we'll be in contact on the forum. The next Band 6 was submitted by Alexander. Alexander, I think your essay fails to create a solid theme throughout it. Let me see. There's no real statement of progression or statement of outline in the introduction paragraph, and I think that this sets up the essay to be a bit hard to follow. In the introduction, you really want to give the reader the opinion that there is a direction to this essay, that it's going to do this, and it's going to prove this point, it's going to look at these different pieces of evidence to do so. So that's sort of is not present in your introduction, and I think that fails you. Let me see. Your supporting paragraphs lack conclusions, and unfortunately this makes it difficult to see the connection between the different parts of the essay. You're one of those students that's sharing an example in the final sentence. Please don't do that. There's no reason for you to share an example in the final sentence. Do it in the second sentence and then discuss it, and then in the final sentence share some sort of conclusion that shows how this supporting paragraph links to the essay as a whole. Okay, you're missing articles in certain areas, so you might want to go through and find those areas. Let me see. So I think overall you would probably score very poorly for task achievement. Your grammar is weak, except that you don't get into any sort of incoherence, and I think you're sort of teetering, between band 5 and band 6. So you might really want to just take a step back, rethink your structure, tweak that grammar a little bit, and really think about creating cohesion between the different sentences and the different paragraphs. And I think in doing this, you will see your mark grow significantly. Thank you for that submission. Okay, now we're starting to get into the band 6s that I think are really at risk of being band 5, 5.5. There are a few saving things about these essays that have convinced me that they would probably place band 6 in the exam. But that said, I've noted here that these next few essays I was being very generous in giving a band 6 to. So just keep that in mind. This essay was submitted by Dr. S.P. Senthil. And I think that this essay has a good structure. And the reasoning behind it is quite good. So we can see, there are examples, and these examples are being tied to a central theme in the essay. I think that's wonderful. More examples about Japan. It must be from an essay I've written previously or something. But I think that the grammar is really, really weak in this essay. I've written here that most of the sentences are grammatically incorrect. And even so much so that it does lead to some incoherence, which is a telltale sign that this essay is at a band 5 level. I think the saving thing here is that there is a structure, there's a central, cohesive progression to it all. I want to point out that there are words that are capitalized that shouldn't be capitalized, and this is something that's very basic. So when this person performs this way on the exam, they might be giving the examiner the impression that they don't have control over very rudimentary English. You don't want to do that, because then the examiner starts to think in their mind that, well, maybe this student isn't quite a band 6. Maybe they're more band 5.5 or even band 5. So you don't want to be giving them that impression. So go back and review that, please. But aside from that, though, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Get your grammar cleaned up, get all of that incoherence cleaned up, and I'm sure that you will see your writing improve. Thank you for that submission. The next essay I've written here, this is a shaky band 6, which when I wrote that, I meant that it could very easily be labeled band 5.5. There are several run-on sentences in this essay. I can name a few here that I've outlined. Let's see. Where is it? To illustrate. Okay, here we go. To illustrate. Okay. To illustrate this, in Indian society, most of the parents exercise strict control over the children. This way, parents teach their children social values and self-restraint. Now, here you have two completely separate ideas, yet you're linking them with a comma. And these sorts of grammatical errors are really kind of pushing the examiner to place you lower. Your concluding paragraph I've written here is very unclear, and it's hard to pick out exactly what your position is on the topic. There is some progression to the response, and this is why I have sympathetically given you a band 6. But I think that your writing really is probably more at a band 5.5 level. Yeah, there are grammatical errors in every sentence. And I think that, that's something that you're going to need to work on. So thank you for that submission. Go and get it grammatically cleaned up by a native English-speaking colleague of yours, and you will see improvement. Okay, now we're getting into band 5. And these band 5s are sort of teetering, in the band 5 area. So these next few would probably be placing at about a band 5.5. Rahulk, I see run-on sentences in your response. I see that you're not being very concise in your topic sentences. So, for example, okay, let's have a look at this sentence here. On the other hand, in Western culture, why is it in capitalized? Parents supports their children to explore any educational option of their own choice and motivates them in whatever career option they want to go for, instead of pushing and forcing them to become personality of their choice. And I think that this sentence, not only is it almost incoherent, you present several different points. Now you should be separating these points into smaller sentences. This will help you to improve your grammar. It'll help you to deliver the points that you want to say. You're also one of those students that have used symbols in your essay. So I see you've used etc., etc. here, and I think there's another place too. Please don't do this. As I mentioned before, there are several topic sentences to your supporting paragraphs. So let's see here. Okay, many Asian countries like India. Anyway, so it's it's not as bad as some of the essays we've looked at, but there are several topic sentences when you should be concise and just deliver one. State your point, get to the example, discuss the example, and then write a conclusion, and that is it. You're finished. I've noticed that the ending is also quite a bit awkward. Excuse me for jumping around a little bit here, but my notes in the paper are a little bit messy. Okay, so here you have more strict rules and regulations means more chances of turning one to mentally sick patient, and therefore more chances of committing suicides. And I think that this is awkward. It brings up new discussions about mental illness. I don't think that has anything really to do with the essay, or if it did have anything to do with the essay, you should have been bringing it up earlier in your supporting paragraphs, not in the very final sentence of your writing. So I think that you are band 5. Now let's look at another band 5. Okay, this is ZNAC. ZNAC, I think that firstly, you present several spelling mistakes in your essay, which is an issue. There appears to be some structure and some progression, but grammatical errors are everywhere. You exhibit incoherence at several points in the essay, which is why you place lower than the essays we've looked at before. I've written here that your topic sentence is terrible. Now I wrote that because you've written, to begin with, there is an alarming rate of misbehavior among young adults. Now, this is not what the essay, this is not what the supporting paragraph is about. As you know, a topic sentence should be stating what the supporting paragraph is talking about. And here, you're supposed to be talking about the merits of strict parenting or disciplinary styles and lenient disciplinary styles. And I think that in writing, there is an alarming rate of misbehavior among young adults. You're kind of flying off the map. This doesn't really have anything to do with the essay. If anything, this could be more part of the example or the discussion of the example, but it wouldn't be a topic sentence. Okay, and so as I mentioned, yeah, there are grammar issues everywhere. So you'll need to get this cleaned up if you're going to see improvement. Thank you for that submission. Anton, you fail to present and discuss evidence, and there are several grammatical issues. I don't know why you're sharing examples in your introduction paragraph. As you know, the introduction should be more of a kind of plan for the essay. It shouldn't really be bringing up examples and drawing conclusions. That sort of thing is done in the supporting paragraphs and conclusion paragraph. Let me see here. I've written here that there are some peculiar vocab choices. So, let me see. When you say here, we face many different cultures around the globe, I don't know what that really means. So there's a bit of incoherence there as well. Let me see if I have any other examples for you. I found that the tone of the essay was a little bit too personal. You seem to use a lot of pronouns that kind of relate to, it sounds like you're writing a letter at some points. I mean, our children's behavior I'm not sure whose children those are, but you have to be careful there. The examples are weak or missing altogether. So in this paragraph, I don't really see any example. I see, in that case, children during their childhood should face as many rules as when they become adults. Now, I know what you mean, but I think that you really should be sharing a true-to-life example. So, I mean, where is this happening? Where is there a place on the planet where children are facing as many rules as when they become adults? I think you mentioned that you're from Russia, so maybe if that's what happens in your culture, that would be a perfect example. You could say, in Russia, this is the case, and then you discuss that further and draw a meaningful conclusion. Okay, I think that there are just several things that are not working in this essay. So that's why you're being placed at about a band 5 level. So you might want to go back, look at that again, and clean up the grammar and provide a bit more structure to the entire piece. You have to organize things differently. Don't put the examples in the introduction. You got to put them in the supporting paragraphs. And I guarantee that you will see improvement in your overall band. Thank you for that submission. Anthony. This is a band 5 essay. It is incoherent at several points. The examples are general. Let me see if I can find one and track one down. Let me see. Okay. For instance, in some nations, elders give reasonable level of freedom to encourage their independence and, most importantly, the sense of responsibility. Now, please don't use dashes in your essay. Dashes are for lazy writers. In some nations, what nations are those? Please be specific. Tell us exactly where this example is coming from. Doing so will add weight to your message. Let me see here. I found that you seem to overcomplicate your sentences. Sorry to jump up, but here we have, thus it can be concluded that discipline plays a very important role in the upbringing of children. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the sentence I wanted to refer to. This is the sentence I want to refer to. Thus it seems that if children are able to control their lives, this freedom are more likely to lead to the betterment of their behavior. So the idea here is very simple. You're just saying that if children are taught how to control themselves better, this will improve their behavior. And I think that here you take that sentence and you take that idea and you overcomplicate it in the way that you've delivered it here. So just keep your thoughts simple, to the point. Don't try to be overly complex, because all that happens is you will cause grammatical inaccuracy, like what has happened here, and you will cause the examiner to feel you're writing incoherently. Okay, and just on I have a piece of paper here with your essay on it. I have question marks in several different areas. So there are areas that are really incoherent. I think you're going to have to go back, shorten your sentences, clean up the grammar, and you will see the mark improve. Thanks for that submission. Sammy is another Band 5 student. Sammy, there are grammar issues in most of the sentences. You seem to have serious problems with plurals, which you'll have to take a look at. The examples are not given as centrally important pieces of information, so you kind of deliver them passively. So for example, if we look here, in Asia, for example, youngsters have to follow family rituals and customs strictly. It strengthens their bond with siblings and parents. Now, where's the conclusion to all this? You just share the example and then you kind of move on. It's almost as if, you are shying away from the example. So if you could be a bit more specific with the example, provide a bit of discussion, insert a very good conclusion here, you will definitely see a growth in your mark. And just between that, and I was a little bit confused because you have a very heavy paragraph here, yet a very light paragraph here. I'm not sure what's going on there exactly, but I mean, that's fine. It's just that you might want to balance these things out a bit more. And I see lots of, preamble before you get to your example. So again, you don't want to do this. Just state your
your topic, get to the example, discuss it, draw a conclusion, and then you're finished.
Okay, thank you for that submission, Sammy. It was submitted by Huda. And Huda, I have several notes for you here. Let's see. The structure is basic, and I think that this does help a little bit. But I think that you write overly complex sentences. You write sentences that are at lengths that you cannot control. And when this starts to happen, you're going to see a breakdown in grammar. As we were mentioned before, this leads to a breakdown in coherence, leads to a breakdown in your overall task achievement. So I think that's what's happened here. I've noted overly complex sentences lead to incoherence. Now, incoherence, this is a marker of band 5 writing. So you don't want too much incoherence in your essay, otherwise you will significantly lose marks. You deliver your examples late in these supporting paragraphs. So here we have lots of discussion, and then all of a sudden, for instance, in Japan. Now, if you've watched any of the videos that I've provided on essay structure, the example should be the second sentence in the paragraph, okay? So you're the person I was talking about earlier on that's sharing, I don't know, 4 topic sentences, 5 topic sentences, and then going to the example, and this is not going to help you. You need to be specific, you need to be to the point. Show the examiner that you are confident, that you know what you're talking about. If you start kind of writing anything that comes into your head and then sharing some sort of example, it looks sloppy, it doesn't really add anything to the overall argument, and I don't think that it will do anything for your mark at all. In fact, I think when your examiner reads this, most of this area I've just highlighted, they're just going to cross right out. It has nothing really to do with your essay. You're not providing any sort of evidence. You're not making any kind of claim. Okay, your capital letters are a specific grammatical area that you're going to want to look at. And that's all I have for you. Another band 5 was Dr. Vishal. Dr. Vishal, I've noted here that this is another pretzel essay, so lots of and signs. You seem to have problems with capital letters. Perhaps this is the same person that submitted the essay prior. Let me see if I can find a few examples of rogue capital letters. There's evidence of structure, and it's clear that you're attempting to write cohesively, except that unfortunately you use the phrases improperly, and sometimes the links are difficult to see. Now here you have what looks like 2 topic sentences and then your example, issue with capital here. This is something that you're going to have to look at and fix, because you just want to be specific, as I've said, with the other students prior, to you just want to share 1 topic sentence, get to the example, and then keep going. And let me see. Right, and as I point out here, so you share the example, and you don't really provide any sort of discussion. You kind of go directly to a very awkwardly written conclusion. This shows the advantages of maintaining a regulation on younger ones in their childhood. So this is awkward, completely grammatically incorrect, and you're going to want to go back and get that fixed. Thank you for your submission. Another band 5 is Buddy. And Buddy, I think I accidentally deleted your I. Okay, now unfortunately the very first sentence is very grammatically incorrect. It is unquestionable that parents want to raise their children as good citizens of the world. So we're going to have to alter that. There are several different issues in that one sentence. So, Buddy, you want to get it bang on, particularly in your opening sentence, because you want to make a good impression. Most sentences have grammatical errors. There are comma problems pretty much throughout the essay. So very weak grammar. I've noted here that there's no real connection made to the essay question at the bottom here. So, I mean, you talk about how strict rules in childhood can help somebody have a good character, grow up with a good character, that's fine. Except that we want to state that this is a merit. I mean, the conclusion should be very clearly saying that there are merits to this way of bringing up children. I mean, that's the point of the essay, right? So you should be, it's fine to use this as part of your discussion, but the conclusion should really be kind of hammering home that, that these are the positives. As I've shown in my supporting paragraph, these are the positives to this parenting style. Now, I also note here that, okay, so you've said here that this is the primary reason for the belief that the Sri Lankans are considered more generous and polite nation in the world. So this is a comparative. I don't know whether you meant to type a superlative, but again, very awkward. I don't really know what you're comparing this to. Maybe to the rest of the world, but whatever it is, it's incoherent. Okay, so grammar cleanup is needed, and a bit of structure tune-up is also needed. Thank you for that submission. Another band 5 is Kate Huang. Kate, you have several spelling mistakes in your essay that you're going to have to look at. On my paper here, I have question marks in many different areas, so several areas are incoherent, and I can share an example. Let me see. Okay, first of all, following rules allows kids to learn how to adjust to a group, even further to society. Now, when you use phrases like even further to society, I don't really know what that means. Are you saying that that kids, I didn't even know what that means, how to learn how to act in society? Is that what you're trying to get at here? I'm not sure. And then there's another part where you go on, let's start living, okay. So then it goes down to personality. Okay. Living with other individuals requires to follow a number of rules, which needs to be practiced. In addition, children who know how to go with many rules are more likely to have calm and polite personality. Now, this is teetering on incoherence. I know what you're trying to get at. I think you're saying that that children who are brought up in households with many rules may be, may more often have calm personalities. I guess that's what you're getting at there, but it's not clear. So, you're really getting into some serious incoherence here. I comment that you wait too long to get to your example. I don't know why you need so much space to deliver your topic sentence. Your topic sentence should be very short, get to the example, and then get on with the discussion and the conclusion. Okay, and I've talked about these spelling mistakes. There are other areas, of incoherence here in the concluding paragraph. If parents bring up kids under proper amount of rules with encouraging expression of their opinions, it might have both benefits. I have no idea what both benefits refers to. I don't know what expression of their opinions, how that connects to the earlier part of the sentence. So anyway, some serious incoherence here. I think you're kind of down towards the lower band 5 level. But thank you for submitting that. Another band 5 essay is Manpreet's. Manpreet, I've noticed that yours is a bit on the personal side. So if we look at the beginning here, we see well, comma. It sounds like you're writing as you would speak. And don't forget that in your exam, you want to be presenting an academic formal tone. And if you use these sorts of phrases, it makes it sound like it's even less formal than you would write in a letter. I mean, I wouldn't even write like this in a letter. This is more something that you would say, not so much write. I've noted that you have issues with plurals, so you'll have to go back and look at that. Now, the incoherence at this level, we're starting to get to the last couple of essays here, is even more noticeable than the previous essays. So there are areas I am really unsure what you're trying to say here, Manpreet. So that's obviously an issue. I think that you're kind of low band 5, maybe even falling into band 4. So the grammar is quite weak. There is no declaration of structure and no declaration of plan for the essay at the beginning.
and that's an issue. You want to share some sort of plan in the introduction to create a bit of cohesion, to make it look that like you've thought about what you're going to say. This is not some random stream from your brain. It's something that you've spent a minute or two, pre-planning. So you want to have a bit of that in the introduction. Again, you share multiple topic sentences before you get to your example. Obviously, this is mistaken. Let me see. The supporting paragraphs don't seem to reflect upon the central theme of the essay at all. So we're starting to really get into territory where task achievement is not doing too well. Your second supporting paragraph doesn't share any example at all, and that's obviously an issue that you're going to have to look at. So my advice to you is to go back, watch my videos on essay structure, and get that nailed down, because I don't think you've done that yet, so you'll have to go back and do that. Get your essay assessed by somebody, perhaps a friend or a teacher in your area, so that you know where the grammar is, where the grammar needs to be improved. And commit yourself to writing shorter sentences, because I can tell that you're writing sentences at a length that you can't control at all. So you really need to focus on making everything a bit more concise, a bit more to the point, and doing so will really help you improve your essay. Thank you for the submission. Alita is another Band 5 student. Alita, your essay has many run-on sentences. So even the very first sentence, for example, there are societies where, let me see, where does the sentence end? There are societies where the children must follow very strict rules of conduct which tell them what to have to do in every situation. And if these normatives are not respected, there generally is a serious penalty for the children. So, this is getting very awkward. I mean, you repeat the children twice, which sounds awkward. And this is not really the best footing you want to show the examiner. I mean, the very first sentence of your essay as well. So you need to shorten your sentences. You have several sentences just like this one in the essay, and these sentences are presenting more than one idea, so they should be split up into multiple little sentences. You can connect those little sentences with cohesive phrases. Let's see. Again, you are one of those people that is providing too much discussion before you share your example. We don't need to see all of this. We need to see your topic sentence, and then we need to see, for instance, and then whatever it is you're going to share as an example. We don't need to see all of this preamble. Okay. You do not reflect upon your central theme, so there is no real conclusion that you draw in any of the supporting paragraphs. So what we see at this level is a breakdown of structure, a breakdown of grammar. You're deviating a bit from the topic itself. So I think that, and there's incoherence in several areas. So I think that you're really going to have to go back and look again at structure, and like we were talking about the past couple of essays, get your grammar corrected, and put these small things into action, and you should see some improvement in your mark. Thanks for the submission. The next student is at a Band 5 level, and this is Almarai. And Almarai, I note here that, again, you don't share specific examples. Now we're starting to get into, I can see there are lots of issues with punctuation here, spaces before full stops, capital letters where there shouldn't be capital letters. Here's another capital letter, here's another one. So I think you really need to kind of master the basics of sentence structure. I don't think you really understand that quite yet. And I think that there is a structure to this, but it's very difficult to follow. Lots and lots of spelling mistakes. We'll discuss, there should be why, countries, behavior. So I think you're going to have to go back and really focus on rudimentary grammar and just get that down. And then after you get that down, you can perhaps take a look at my videos on outline essay structure. And then after you feel you understand that, then write a couple of essays and get them corrected by a friend, native English speaking friend. And you will see that there are areas that you're really sort of going wrong. I think doing these things will help you improve your mark. I really think that you're falling more into a band 4, even band 4.5. But I gave you a band 5 because I felt that there is a basic structure to this. You do share some, they're very loose, the examples. Like I mentioned before, they're not very specific. But I see that you're trying to make some sort of logical progression here. So I think that overall, the 4 breadths considered, you'd just score a band 5, maybe band 4.5 with this response. But you're really going to have to go back and improve yourself in all areas. Thank you for that submission. The next essay is also at band 5 level. This is Ya 1, 2, 3. And Ya, you have several things that we're going to need to improve. Firstly, you're also being very personal when you use slang like tween. I think here you mean perhaps, I don't know what you mean, maybe a pre-teenager. So these sorts of things we want to avoid. I've noted here that you use symbols, for example, i.e. So this is not a grocery list, this is a real academic essay. So you want to be using academic vocabulary. I see capital letters where there shouldn't be capital letters. I think there are a lot of very rudimentary problems in this piece of writing. Now you choose the middle ground, so you say that you support both sides, but I don't think that you do this well. There are areas of incoherence. So it makes it very difficult for the reader to follow. And when this starts to happen, I mean, you're really going to get hit hard in the task achievement portion of the mark. So I think what we're looking at here is, I'm being generous with the band 5. I think you'd probably be falling down below band 5 with this sort of response. But I think you're going to have to go back, as I was mentioning for the student prior, and look at all areas, improve your basic grammar and get some structure under your belt. And then you can come back and start practicing your essay writing again. Thank you for that submission. Okay. Pocamamum 2013. Serious punctuation issues here. I don't know why you've avoided spaces, and sometimes you put space before the comma and not after. So you're going to have to go back and alter that. I've noted that every single sentence has serious grammar issues in them. So you're going to have to go back and focus on that. There are no specific examples. There are many areas of incoherence. So you're really teetering into band 4 now. Let me point out the areas of incoherence. Well, for example, the conclusion. In conclusion, in my opinion, I would like to say that children should be permitted to learn all things that are essential for their lives by their parents, which would be much more beneficial to survive in the world. And, I have to struggle and reread to try to pull out some sort of meaning there. Here we have furthermore, this goes down to good. Furthermore, it is crucial to survive in the competitive world because they have to react badly in the worst situations. I have no idea what that means. And they have to act as an honest person when the situation is good. So the reader loses track of what you're trying to say. So you really need to go back and work on that more. Okay, and I think that's all I have to share with you about that. Thank you for that submission. Okay. Next user is Erda Lokaktan. I've noted here that the examples are not specific. I've noted that you contradict yourself in areas here. Okay, so if we look at the example down to this part here, so here's your example, which is also not very clear. This should be for instance, but it's for instance. A kid who grows up with family pressure get a weak personality. Furthermore, they tend to violence and crime when they become adults. Only relatively affirmative side this method is saving them some possible threats, such as drugs and smoking. The WHO announced that starting age to drug use and smoke is decreasing every year. More and more children become addicted nowadays. So Firstly, there are very few things I understand in that little bit there. Here we have, you're saying that drug and smoke use is decreasing every year, but then you finish with more and more children are becoming addicted. So, you know, lots of contradiction. Your sentences don't really seem to make sense. I see that there is a structure to this, but I don't think that there is really... I just don't think the grammar is clear enough that the reader can follow with complete accuracy what it is you're trying to discuss. But I think that, you know, you need to go back, you need to study basic sentence structure again. And it looks like you've watched my videos on an outline, how to structure an essay. So I see that there are a few basic things regarding structuring an essay, but I think you really need to work on your grammar first and then apply this to the future essays you write, and you should see some development that way. But thank you very much for submitting this, and I hope the comments were helpful. Okay, another is Olif. Olif, I don't see any example at all in the essay. I see no real discussion. I just see a bunch of sentences that are on the topic, that's true, but they don't really come to any sort of conclusion. So there's no, you know, like let's read the last sentence here. Moreover, people are less concerned that children may end up breaking laws in society when they become grown-ups, if they strongly realize that they have to follow rules since they were young. Now, I know what you mean. I know what the logical progression is here. You're trying to say that young people that grow up in households with rules will become obedient adults. They will become law-abiding adults. That makes sense. It's just the way that you present it is unclear, and you do not provide any sort of sentence to sort of link this back to the main theme of the essay. So that's lacking. There's lots of incoherence in the essay. Let me see. Yeah, a few run-on sentences as well. So, you know, again, all areas need to be improved here, Olif. Thank you very much for that submission. Okay. Surya Pradeep. Surya Pradeep, I just noted to myself that among the ones that we've just seen, yours is a little bit stronger. So these are not, you know, completely in order, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I think that your essay provides a lot of what I've noted on my paper here is fluff. So lots of talk, but not so much concrete evidence, concrete discussion. So yes, I remember your essay now. You write sort of stream of thought. So for example, if we just read the first paragraph together, let's see, where does it end? It's synchronized. Okay, so now if you look at this, now this is the supporting paragraph, and let me just do a quick word count on this. Yeah, so, okay, Surya, I don't know what's going on here. I mean, this one supporting paragraph is almost as long as the entire essay should be. It's over 200 words, so you really got to fix that. And I think, you know, you might have some strengths in terms of grammar, but the structure is really not happening. You got to go back and fix this. It looks as though you have never seen or had a class on essay structure at all, and that's not what you want to be presenting to your examiner. So I think, you know, if we read it from the top, this is the supporting paragraph I should point out. In cultures where children are expected to exhibit discipline and behavior, has the advantage of grooming them from their very young age. The value system for children, which revolves around discipline, has boundaries well defined for most of their day-to-day situations. Children imbibe these rules of behavior and respond to the situations accordingly. Not only responding to situations over a period of time, children inculcate them and start leading a disciplined life. Anyway, I mean, even just to this point, you're just rambling. I don't know what you're trying to say. I don't think there's any real point to it even. You're just, anything that's coming into your mind, you're writing down, and that's not what you want to do in your IELTS essay. You have to have a plan. You have to look like you've at least thought about what you're about to say. Okay, so you got to go back and focus on structure. There's no real evidence in the essay. You share here, in a specific society in India where I grew up, I spent most of my schooling years. We children were taught to greet elders whenever we saw them, share our toys, books, gift with our fellow kids, follow a strict daily routine. Look how long the example goes on for. I mean, please just be a little bit more specific. This is, it's getting cartoonishly big, some of these areas. And I noted here that there's no real clear conclusion that you draw in the supporting paragraphs. So I think you're going to have to go back. You're going to have to fix what's going on here. I see the seeds of a good writer here, so I please don't read me incorrectly. I do think that there are some strengths here, but you really got to have to work. You're going to have to work on your structure if you're planning to score well in the IELTS. But thank you for that submission. Okay, we're getting down to the last couple here. Oops. Okay. Suhaib Kilji. Okay. Suhaib, I've noted here that, okay, so the example, okay, there are certain things that you're sharing that I don't think you need to share in the essay. So for example, children of Chinese or Japanese cultures where karate or other similar activities are common, children are more intelligent and hardworking. Things like this, you're going to throw your examiner off if, you know, where karate or similar activities are common. Who cares? What does that have to do with anything? So you could just take that right out. And grammar is obviously an issue here, so you're going to have to go back and work on that a little bit. I've noted, yeah, every sentence contains major grammatical errors. You have several run-on sentences, and I can point one out for you in the example here. It just goes down to activities. So here we have, for example, by not criticizing on any culture where children not respecting parents or teachers and bullying other children have a negative impact on their growth and mostly end up with being addicted to drugs or illegal activities. This is really running on. You really have to simplify these sentences. You will not score any extra marks for writing long sentences that are grammatically inaccurate. So you need to go back and really work on that. And then also, you seem to miss the point of the essay. You're supposed to be talking about the merits of the two sides, and all I see here is a lot of talk about the negatives in this paragraph anyways. So you don't want to do that. You want to stick to what the essay question is asking. Thank you for submitting. Lucic 7, I note here that there is no real logical progression based on evidence. So, Lucic, you share examples like parents always want for their children the best. That's fine, but that's just sort of a general statement. There's no real concrete evidence behind it. You haven't stated what parents you're talking about or where they're from or anything. You're just kind of generally talking about parents, which doesn't add a lot of weight to what you're trying to say. You don't tie anything back to your main theme. For some reason, you share an awkward example at the end. For instance, I think it's supposed to say China, people are well-behaved and hardworking. To illustrate, children in the USA have more freedom and become independent, ready to live their own life. Again, why put the example at the end? The end is supposed to be the portion where you link the discussion that you've made about an example to the main theme of the essay. So you're really messing things up here. Lots of awkwardness in most sentences. There are awkward areas. So the task is not achieved here. And I think that, you know, just as I pointed out here, there are several things that are kind of pushing you below band 5. So good luck with your studies. Thank you for submitting that. Okay. Lena? You have several run-on sentences in your essay. There are awkward, you know, choice of words, overly complicated sentences that you could simplify. You have incoherence in several areas, and your writing seems to get weaker as you progress. So if we see here at the beginning, you have raising a child is a long life, I think you mean lifelong responsibility. Different parents have different attitudes about how to bring up their infants. So there's a little vocab issue there. Some of them prefer to take control. So anyways, at least there's some grammatical structure that can be recognized there. As we get to the end here, we see, you know, problems with punctuation. So for example, as being an open-minded parent may encourage the child to be more creative and to grow up healthy mentally and physically and more independent. So, you know, grammar is all over the place, and it's and then we get to the conclusion. As for my part, I'm more, I think you mean inclined, but this is inclined, with restricted nurture. I have no idea what that means. However, a child should have his own, not on space, and the limitations should not be very tight. He should be able to make his decisions and take the related responsibilities. I have no idea what that means either. So you have several what look like ideas. I mean, I imagine this should be a full stop. And you should be breaking up your ideas into smaller sentences and worrying about the grammar. So for you, grammar is a very big issue. I've noted here that grammar is what's holding you back. But thank you for submitting that. Ari Priya. Okay. Let's see. So Ari Priya, I don't see any conclusions being drawn in the supporting paragraphs. Your sentences are run-on sentences in several areas. So, for example, the entire conclusion paragraph is one sentence. So I think you're really going to have to go back and look at structure again. I mean, these are very rudimentary grammar issues. And as with the other essays I was just looking at, probably more likely placed, definitely in grammar you're placed at band 4, but there does appear to be some structure, but incoherence is really making it difficult for the reader to follow that structure. Some of the pronouns you share are difficult to follow. So, for example, secondly, the advantages of letting them to do whatever they want. Now, the reader has to assume here that you're talking about children. I mean, we're not really sure what them is referring to, so you have to be careful there. So I think that lots of challenges ahead of you, Ari Priya. I think you'll have to get this, grammatically cleaned up, spend some time worrying about structure, and then give it another go. Thank you for submitting that. Okay, Annie A. You spend a lot of time looking at the negatives of both sides, which is not really in keeping with the essay question, so unfortunately you would probably do very poorly in task achievement. You write as if you're writing a diary, making a diary entry. It sounds like you're just writing things from the top of your head. In my opinion, both theories have as much negatives as positives. I think that a good example for the first type of countries are India and China, where following the tradition and showing you respect is everything. In this way, okay, then we continue on. Due to, for instance, there are fathers that beat up or even rape their own kids. In this way, they damage their darlings' lives, and after that, they want respect. I think it is absurd. So there's no real logical progression to this. It sounds like you haven't made any plan for the essay, that you're just sort of writing whatever comes into your head. That's not what you want to do in the exam. You should have a very clear introduction, followed by supporting paragraphs with good evidence, and you're drawing good conclusions from those pieces of evidence. I've noted that there are no specific examples. I've noted that every sentence is grammatically inaccurate. There is no academic tone to the essay. So Annie, you're definitely into the band 4 area, and you're gonna have to do quite a bit to pull yourself out of that. But thank you for submitting. Surya. Surya, there is no real plan for your essay. Again, you are very personal, just like another person I was reading earlier. Who was that? Just look through my papers here. Manpreet, yeah, very similar. You start with well, which is, it just sounds like you're talking to your friend. Doesn't sound at all like an academic essay. Well, it is obvious that the family cultures play an important role to determine the behavior of children. Each family has their own way rearing their children. In some cultures, children have to follow very strict rules. No idea what flow, I think you meant follow. While in some other cultures, they are free to do anything they want. Now, there's no real outline sentence. Grammar issues are everywhere. You also make use of etc. at some point. I've noted here. I don't see it right now. Here it is. Etc. Which you don't want to do. There are several instances of incoherence. So I think that you're really going to have to go back and clean all of these areas up, just like I've pointed out for the other essays I've corrected. But thank you for that submission. The next person that submitted an essay is IELTS Practice 2. Again, there's no real plan for the essay. There's no outline sentence. It's written, sort of stream of consciousness. Certain proper nouns are not capitalized. This is not written as a list. There are, problems in every area of the essay. I've noticed here that there are several sentences that could be taken out completely because they're just simply not needed. So you might have to go back and work on that again. So yeah, I think IELTS Practice 2, you're going to have to focus on your grammar, shorten your sentences. You're going to have to go back and study essay structure because you obviously don't have a good grasp of it. And that should help to improve your work. Thank you for that submission. Okay, Nimia. The sentences many of them are run-on sentences, so you're going to have to figure out a way to shorten them. Your sentences are very informal. It's like you're writing something that you would speak. You're trying to write sentences that require grammar that you simply can't control. So for example, I have here, let me find it, another point, and this goes down to large. Okay, so let's look at this sentence. Another point that can be said against the statement of giving full freedom is that children are naive and inexperienced in life. Their acts cannot therefore be in full wisdom, either beneficial to themselves and to the society at large. So here you're presenting several ideas. You'll have to cut these up into smaller sentences. Don't use slashes in your essay, please. It just makes you look lazy. He/she can just be they. Social phobia is quoted. I don't really know why or who you're quoting. So I think that most areas of this essay need improvement. You're overcomplicating a very simple task. Your supporting paragraph should only have 4 sentences in them. So go back and please try to improve those. Thank you for that submission. Okay, the next essay has been submitted by Habib. And Habib, several areas of incoherence. Your introduction paragraph, I've labeled it, honestly, I labeled it useless. So here we have, in these modern generation, every parents are wishing to have a bold child who follows all of the culture's rules, guidelines, and responsibilities with overall good behavior. On the other hand, it's all about children who fulfills parents' wish or not. I don't know what you're talking about. However, it's a matter of choice rather than obligation. So this introduction paragraph, most of it is completely incoherent. There's no real plan for the essay at all. The examiner's going to finish this and not really know what your position is at all. So you're going to have to go back and figure out how to structure this better. Lots of discussion before you share an example. So that's a problem. Grammar is obviously a very serious issue here. So I think you're going to have to go back and look at that again. Thank you for that, Habib. And finally, Rova Mitterall. Okay, Rova Mitterall, let me do a quick word count here. Okay, so this is 432 words, and you want to be aiming for between 250 and 300 words. So you're obviously way over the mark. Everything in the essay is pretty much incoherent. You use a lot of vocabulary, which is impressive at times, but you use it incorrectly. So if we just read the introduction paragraph, throughout decades, there's no such phrase in English as throughout decades, the customs for each tradition involve children to take part into many occasions. The culture gives them a freedom of choice on how would the children growing up from their experiences, while others strictly prohibit them from doing so. again, I'm completely lost. I don't know what you're talking about. It is by far a vital issue we are currently facing as we lived under pluralism from many cultures. Thus, positive and negative outcomes may follow suit that give influences on the child's personal development. So I'm very sorry, Rova, but I have no idea what you're talking about here at all. And I think the examiner will feel the same way. So we're looking at low band 4 here, maybe even high band 3. A strict, isolated custom in some countries include... Anyway, it goes on and on like this throughout the entire essay. And I think, Rover, you're going to have to go back and really, break your ideas up into small sentences. Ensure that they make sense. You will not win marks for using random academic words. You can use all the beautiful vocabulary you like, but if it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't do anything for you. So I think you would score almost a 0 on task achievement. Grammar would be very low. Incoherence is there. And yeah, I don't think that there's too much here to go by. So Rova, I think you need to go back and start your studies over again and start at the very basic, get those sentences down, find a structure. You can study mine and my videos and apply stronger grammar to that, and you should be able to improve your mark a little bit. So I hope that video was helpful. I know that you probably had to fast forward to get to your essay in particular, and so as you can see, there were many mistakes that occurred over and over again. I think many students forgot to write conclusion sentences in their supporting paragraphs. Many students had grammar that led to incoherence, and this was obviously an issue, although sometimes it can be difficult to fix grammar, so you're going to have to go and find yourself someone that will be able to correct the grammar for you, show exactly where you're making the mistakes, and then you're going to be able to build your mark upon that foundation. I hope that video was helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice evening.